God is good, and each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. In the meantime, though, we do not have a game like that to play, so if you're interested in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen type content, please join me here at my channel, here at the Nathan Napalm, as we delve into it and do all kinds of fun stuff while we wait. Today, though, guys, I wanted to talk about a lost artifact of MMORPG gameplay, and that is going to be my favorite thing to do in MMOs, what made me fall in love with the games to begin with, and just want to spend all my time in them, in their worlds, and playing as my class and everything, would definitely have to be dungeon crawling. I just find it a ridiculous amount of fun going into this massive labyrinth, and you walk in and it's just every path you take there's another option, going down deeper or going up into some other area, and ladders and all these things, and just trying to explore it and try to find the loot that's in it, and trying to kind of wrap your head around the map and how to get to different areas. And then you always, no matter how long you've been in this dungeon playing with groups, somebody always shows you this other secret camp spot or these really cool mobs that are really deep in the dungeon, and it's just awesome. And I tell you, there's a lot of things I like about dungeon crawling in MMOs, and it's very different. You know, I try to get my fix in other games. You know, I'll try to go to like a CRPG and, you know, do some dungeon delving in those and like one player type games, and that's fun and everything, but it's just not the same as when you're with other people. You know, when it's a public dungeon, okay? So this is very different than what we see in today's MMORPGs, where you queue up for a dungeon, you go in, and sometimes there might be multiple paths or some, you know, extra bosses in or whatever, but for the most part, it's a straight through run. You just kind of blast through all the enemies, and you get to the bosses, and you kind of stop for a while, you fight the bosses, a couple of mechanics, you move on, back through the trash mobs, and it's just kind of a one-path progression. And it's just not the same at all. It's just your group in an instance, and there's something about going down into a dungeon, especially in a lively, you know, well-populated game. For example, and that's why I included footage in this video from Dark Age of Camelot, is because back in its heyday, long ago, I remember a Friday, Saturday night, you log on to the game, you go to whatever dungeon you're at, for that particular level, and you go there and it's just popping. There are camps everywhere, everybody's having a good time, everybody's getting their XP, there's people looking for groups, there's people needing other classes to join their group, and it's just everywhere. And I remember the problem back then was trying to find a camp spot where you and your group could get your XP and you wouldn't intrude on other groups and their pools, and that was part of the fun, you know. And a lot of people are dreading that, you know, like they're worried about how that's going to work in a modern world with those old school type tactics as far as how dungeons work. I'm not worried at all. I remember how much fun it was in a popular game at that time, and Dark Age of Camelot was very popular. And you know, the thing is, though, is when you go down into these dungeons and you're getting a group and you're playing together and everything, and you're having interaction with other groups and other people, and, you know, people have to leave and you get new people in, and what happens is you're not, sometimes you do end up in a particular spot and you're camping it, right? Which is fine, that's fun, whatever, but the most fun is when you're actually crawling slowly through the dungeon, and that's the kind of gameplay that Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is going for. They're going for more of the consistently moving forward, you know, consistently exploring and pushing the boundaries of what your group can do, and that's where you have a lot of fun. When you get a group where you go into the dungeon and you just kind of crawl your way through, looking for the right conning of mobs so you get the best XP, exploring it, trying to find secrets, trying to get to some secret boss that you heard about, etc. That's where all the fun comes in, and you're constantly, you know, somebody levels up in your party, and you're going to the next, you know, mob that cons good because maybe that person leveled up, now it's not red anymore, maybe it's a yellow conning mob, or it's, not giving the same amount of experience, so you push a little bit further, and you push a little bit further, and eventually you hit a wall. You either get to an area where everything is just way too hard, or there's a wandering mob comes through, right? One that just kind of isn't fixated to one point. It kind of has certain hallways and places that it kind of roams, and it aggroes on sight, so suddenly your whole game plan gets messed up. You've got this high conning mob on you, or maybe you'd already made a pull and then he wanders through and everybody in the group's freaking out and trying to get out of his way. They don't know which way he's going to turn. All these kind of things are so much fun. And then with Pantheon throwing in new concepts into the AI as far as how the NPCs are going to interact with the players in the groups, you have a whole nother section of fun and layers of addiction and everything of doing that. Because something Brad McQuaid has said several times is he doesn't want it to be, he does want you to have that sense of, I've been here before, I know the layout of this dungeon, follow me, I know exactly what to do, where we're going to go, what mobs we need to camp, etc., etc. But when we get down that dungeon, there are variables, okay? There's things that change. This boss here in this room, they can basically at VRs flip a switch and now he's wandering, he's not in that room anymore. So they want there to still be surprises so that, yes, you can learn it, okay? We're not going to be going into, at least on the main dungeons, at least at launch, they're not looking at doing random generated dungeon types, okay? And I know those can be fun and everything, but it does take away from the learning of the dungeon and the exploration and being able to figure it out. There's fun in that, knowing where everything is and being able to lead a party through it, or show people in your party something they've never seen before. So Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is trying to keep with that, okay? To where you can learn it. However, just because you know certain things or you know how to explore it well doesn't mean you're not going to get surprised while you're down in there, okay? So there's going to be variables that help keep everything fresh and fun, so that every single group you get in, or every single run you go through with this dungeon, if you can even call it a run really, every single play session you have with it is a little bit unique. What they're trying to avoid is and Brad says it all the time, the Groundhog Day effect, which is the movie Groundhog Day, where everything just repeats over and over and over and over, and you're literally doing the same exact thing every time you go to this particular place. That's what he's trying to avoid. So that's what the team is working on when they're designing these dungeons. I do believe we have some of the best dungeon designers in the industry that are behind this. If you look back at some of the awesome layouts and really cool themes and things in EverQuest or in Vanguard, you can see that there are just these amazing, there's just this amazing amount of talent behind of how they design things and how they kind of layer the dungeons and how they kind of keep everything interesting. And a Lost Art is where they'll just throw these random things in there, like a really high level mob or a specific area of the dungeon that's for like a way higher level. So you're in a level 20 dungeon, let's just say, and there's this whole section you can get to, right? And you might accidentally stumble into it with your group, and it's really actually designed for like a level 40s. You know what I mean? And you go and you're like, oh my god, this is just suddenly crazy and everything. So these are the exciting parts of MMORPG. The discovery, the danger, and the adventure. And in my opinion, crawling through a dungeon is some of the best you can get of that type of gameplay, because you're constantly exploring and pushing forward with your group and trying to get to the limit of what your group is able to partake in, or able to enjoy, or able to get through and survive, right? So you're trying to get the max XP, but at the same time you don't want to die and have a corpse run. So that's the balance that the group is always dealing with, and it changes through the play session as people level up, etc. So that's really what I want to talk about today, was crawling through dungeons. What do you guys think? Is that some of your favorite memories in MMORPGs of the past? Are you excited to see a return to the public dungeon system? Are you going to miss instance dungeons where you can just hop in, and join a queue and run through a dungeon real quick, and it's always the same, and you can master it perfectly, you know exactly what to expect? Or are you looking forward to the fact that there's going to be variables and things could be a little different this run than last time? and the fact that you're going to be around other people nonstop, which causes interaction and new challenges, and you know, even to the point where you get to that boss that you planned on for a week, and you get your group together and all your friends, and you go, and guess what? He's dead, and he's on a timer because somebody else had already done it. Is this things you dread? How do you think Pantheon's going to deal with that? And let's get a discussion going. But guys, I thank you for joining me today. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. That's what we do here at the Nathan Napalm channel, is talk about Pantheon related content. God bless, and happy gaming.